Welcome back to a brand new edition of Virtue's Brand of Wrestling right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And I am Virtue, and I also like to call this show Wrestling with Virtue over on WrestlingWithWrestling.com and Andre Corbeil's page. Now, look, okay, I have talked about this topic in the past before in one form or another. And right now, it's the state of the WWE and the chaos backstage that circles around one Vince McMahon. Now, I have a column that's going to be released soon. By the time this video is up, it'll probably be over on NoDQ.com under the opinion section, and it is called WWE Needs Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. And you can go over there and read that and get to the finer details of what my point for this video is going to be. Look, we hear for the last several years, Vince McMahon is never happy, doesn't take others' ideas very well, rips up scripts. He had altercations with Brock Lesnar. I believe it was, whether this was worked or shoot, after WrestleMania in New Orleans. Brock was very upset with the outcome of the Roman Reigns match and threw the title at Vince McMahon. We know that Roman has been scripted and, has been hung out to dry on a couple occasions when all somebody like Roman Reigns needs to do is go out there with no handcuffs, unscripted, just with bullet points to drive the angle or the storyline across. And it would be much more believable and a lot better. But Vince is not very happy these days, right? Because he doesn't have any go-to star power. The last guy he had before this network era of wrestlers was John Cena. Now, during John Cena's era, he was lucky enough to have dabbled into, he had some Kurt Angles. He came up with Randy Orton, Batista, and Brock Lesnar before Brock went on hiatus. Shawn Michaels was around still. Triple H was around. Chris Jericho came back. So many main eventers. Undertaker, I think I mentioned him. The rise of CM Punk. And John Cena was very lucky and had a lot of really, really good people to work with at the top of the card. When Roman now got his chance, right around 2015, right, he ended up headlining 4 consecutive Manias. There was a network era. It was no one star is bigger than the WWE, and he was heavily scripted to go out there and be this superhero that looked like the SWAT team member, still carrying the shield gimmick. And he did a pretty good job considering he couldn't be like John Cena, going out there with bullet points. He couldn't be Stone Cold or The Rock. All he could be was Roman Reigns. And people give me flack for comparing him, or putting him up on the pedestal for this era. And then they say, well, John Cena, it was 3.5, 4 million people. When Roman took over, it fell down to 3 in terms of being face and head of the company. And now it got down to as low as 2.5. Look, what help has Roman had? A part-time Brock Lesnar, which we'll get to. Undertaker, Cena, all retired. Triple H, part-time. Who are the main eventers? Batista gone. Randy Orton. It's your AJ Styles and your Daniel Bryans, who was out injured most of that time. And CM Punk left the company. The Roman Reigns has had no help other than Brock Lesnar. And on top of having no help, he had to go out there scripted. He had to go out there and be a superhero instead of like a Shades of Grey, edgy tweener, maybe babyface with Shades of Grey. And people just didn't buy into it. But yet he still headlined 4 consecutive Manias because Vince McMahon trusted his opinion of Roman being the next John Cena. And of course, while that was happening, Brock was the 1A and 1B with Roman and Brock was always there to come out and have the big matches, but he only did so many appearances, right? He wasn't there all the time. Roman was the guy there nightly, weekly. Brock came in when needed, and those were 2 of the big pawns, or whatever you want to call them, on Vince McMahon's chessboard. His two go-to pieces that he would checkmate people with. And look, Brock's not necessarily, it's hard to gauge what his drawing power is for TV ratings. And he doesn't really do house shows. And most of the pay-per-views he was at, those houses did pretty well at the gate. But the ratings were hard because Brock, he wasn't consistently on TV because he was part-timer. They would hype him up. Usually the shows Brock was on did pretty well, right? 2.5 to 3 million, which from today's WWE Network era standards is pretty good. Look where we're at today without any fans in the pandemic era. We're under 2 million people. And guess who's not there? Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. So back to my point on Brock, he definitely is a contributing factor to extra eyeballs. Okay, no doubt about it. Roman now has 2 instances where I ain't going to put him on the Rock and Cena and Austin level. And really, Cena's just a notch below Austin and Rock era in terms of ratings. But for the WWE Network era, Reigns draws. And I've said this time and time again. He's been gone on 2 lengthy occasions now. When he was out for leukemia, and now most recently since the pandemic. Those Raws after he left for leukemia, if you take all of those Monday Night Raws, because he was on Raw at the time, you take the Raws that he was on before then and average them out, and you can go 4 weeks prior, 6 weeks prior, I don't care. And then you pick up the Raws where he came back, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever, take all of them together, average them. He clearly brought 400,000 to 500,000 more eyeballs during the time he was gone. Go back, go and look. Go look at the dates he was gone and the before and the afters and do the math. And you got to take an average too. 2020, okay? The first part of 2020, 2.5 million people. 2.5, 2.6. SmackDown was doing. This show Roman was on. Pandemic happened. Roman was on 4 SmackDowns at the Performance Center with no crowd. It was still around 2.5. He went home just before WrestleMania happened, the WrestleMania tapings. Ever since, the average rating on SmackDown, which was the show he was on, 2 million people. And most recently, it's been under that, 1.8, 1.9. Do the math. That's at least 500,000 people. Eyeballs. Doesn't seem like a lot when you're talking what the drawing power of the past was. But in today's culture of what WWE is, no star can be bigger than it, that's a pretty significant amount of eyeballs. And yes, I will say it is contingent with Brock Lesnar lurking there. You never know when he's going to come and be part of the main event scene. That does help the number for Roman. But standalone, I'm confident in telling you Vince McMahon misses Roman Reigns. Because with him, and we will never know, if he was on SmackDown this last couple of months during the pandemic, could it still be at the 1.8, 1.9 under 2 million? It could be, right? But based on the track record when he's gone and the before and the afters when he's there, I feel confident that 400 to 500K Roman would bring to the table. And if he was here, even with those empty arena shows, I think SmackDown would be doing 2.3, 2.4 right now. Okay? With Brock Lesnar, probably wouldn't have even missed a beat. Vince McMahon misses these people. That's why he rips these scripts up, because he has always booked his shows around the superstars. I mean, go back to his dad doing Bruno Sammartino, putting Bruno up there. Okay? When Vince made it sports entertainment, it was Hulk Hogan. Brought in Macho Man for a little bit, Warrior. He always had those couple of top pieces. And the rest of the card just filled in naturally because you had drawing top stars that Vince believed in, and it just worked. Okay? But back then, keep in mind, there was a few people in the main event picture. So even though Hogan had the title most of the time, you always thought someone like a Savage or a Warrior could win it. Okay? Austin Rock had it made. I mean, they had Undertaker still. Shawn kind of left injured. Foley, Kane, and Triple H. They had a very deep main event scene then. Mick Foley. Cena, like I mentioned before, very deep main event scene. Roman, who's he had? Part-time Brock. A part-time Brock. And Vince needs both of these guys in different ways. Roman to be that everyday, every week workhorse that you can put in as a potential one of the final guys in the Rumble every year. Potential main event, main match at WrestleMania, as long as Roman's healthy. And then Brock, whenever he comes in, he's in the main scene. And Vince doesn't have that right now, which makes him panic. And I've said this before. And the rest of the show suffers, and nothing's good enough for the writers, from the Pritchards, the Heymans. It goes to Vince, and just nothing is good enough because he doesn't have those top couple of people that he's always relied on. Let's face it, Drew McIntyre, as good as he is, he ain't that guy. Could he be? But he ain't that guy right now. Braun Strowman ain't that guy. Bray Wyatt ain't that guy. Character gimmick. Brock is gone. Roman's out, staying safe at home. Vince McMahon does not know what to do. Now, sure, could Matt Riddle become a big star? All the rumors are that Vince McMahon really, really likes him, and this guy's getting the HBK treatment. How Vince gets his man crushes on these type of people, and the fact that Matt Riddle is kind of so outspoken and goes into business for himself on social media in a way that, because he's legitimately tough, Vince probably respects it. So could Matt Riddle become something? But nobody's going to become something until Vince McMahon allows it. Roman Reigns has been allowed to be that guy, and therefore, since his headline 4 Manias, he got all that polarizing heat. He's there now until he retires. He is one of the main guys in WWE history, whether you like it or not. Obviously, Brock Lesnar is. But without these two on the show, Vince McMahon doesn't even know how to book the undercard, doesn't even know how to book the mid-card. He is lost. And that's the thing, too. If you have your top guys and you clearly, which they hold the ratings and they hold, if we're allowed to have fans at shows again, you might not be getting Attitude Era house show numbers, but with Roman doing house shows, they were still getting Roman fans there, and WWE was at least making some money on them and selling merch. That those TV ratings never dipped below 2.5 with Roman there and with Brock lurking. They're both gone. Now it's under 2 million because all that's left are wrestlers that wrestling fans like, and that casual appeal to people that might not tune in if they're larger than life stars like Reigns and Lesnar aren't there. They're not tuning in. And it's sad because there is some potential there. Like, I don't want to put all that pressure on Reigns and Lesnar, right, to be the guy to keep the bleeding from getting worse, which clearly has happened without them there, right? Some people will argue with me, well, if they were both there or if Roman was there, WWE during this pandemic could easily still be where they're at. Okay, if you think that's true, then you also have to believe that if Roman was there, that maybe they didn't dip below the Roman numbers, and he would have kept the hemorrhaging from stopping, or from bleeding, and he would have kept the hemorrhaging at bay, and they'd have more viewers. Okay, it's a tricky situation because we know how Vince McMahon is. By watching his product for 30 plus years, we see how he gravitates towards his top drawing stars. When you see bust out stars that you think might deserve it, that I think might deserve it, like a CM Punk, even those guys and a Daniel Bryan, they have ceilings. There's a Vince McMahon brass ring and there's a bulletproof glass ceiling right below it, and only a few people can get through there. And Vince McMahon gets so irate, and there's this chaos supposedly at TV tapings, and there's rewrites, an hour before the show, because he doesn't have that comfort zone. He doesn't have that security blanket as a Brock Lesnar and a Roman Reigns. Look, this is the interesting part, right? And I'm going to make sure this is part of my column. Brock Lesnar makes millions of dollars working part-time for WWE in only a few matches a year. Roman Reigns is a 7 figures guy. I think Roman Reigns' net worth is like 12 or 13 million dollars. The only thing he's really done outside of WWE is he had a little part in that movie with The Rock, Hobbs and Shaw. So Roman Reigns has created a 12 to 13 million dollar net worth by being a WWE superstar. That's because he's the top guy. And Vince McMahon wouldn't have made Roman Reigns a multimillionaire. Okay, if you have over $10 million, you're a multimillionaire. If he wasn't making Vince McMahon money in some way. Okay, Vince would have put the kibosh on that. So those two guys, just look at their net worth. Just look at what they make by being WWE main eventers. That tells you that they've made Vince McMahon money, because if they didn't, Vince wouldn't have paid Reigns for the last 5 years to give him all that money, to have WWE lose money because of him. But people that don't like Roman, because he's that forced guy, and you might think that his character's too Vince McMahon bland, which I can agree with you to a point there. Roman's obviously made money with merch, house show attendance, even though it's not what the Attitude Era used to be, WrestleMania access, advertisers, stockholders, right? Most likely, if you don't have guys like Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar on your roster, does Fox buy your show? Right? Roman Reigns was drafted or was on SmackDown ever since it was on Fox. Okay. Brock, I think, initially was too. Something happened there, but he was part-time, so that really doesn't count. Saudi Arabia, do you think they would have threw that money over there if you didn't have guys like Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, who were featured heavily over there during those shows? Think about it. Those two guys are sorely missed right now by WWE. And, if you want to throw in, no Charlotte, no Becky, I'm not saying that they're at the level of Roman and Brock draw, but for the women's division, now you have 4 people gone. And look at the ratings, and look at the mass panic and chaos during these tapings. And Vince McMahon's going insane because he doesn't have star power. You can only hope Matt Riddle can get there. Strowman's damaged goods. Drew, maybe a little bit too late. Maybe Drew needs fans, maybe for him to work out. Where's Daniel Bryan been? Home, right? During the pandemic. Has a newborn. CM Punk's never come back. I mean, what do you say? What do you say? Vince McMahon will never change his ways. He'll always have his 1 or 2 shining knights in his pocket. And will he ever let new ones develop? Remains to be seen. But I'm telling you, people, they miss, specifically one Vince McMahon, heavily miss Roman and Brock, and the ratings truly show it. And there's enough factual evidence that show those matter. And I almost can't wait for Roman to come back, and after 4 weeks, just to see where those ratings are, to see if they stay the same, or if that 400 to 500K I speak of truly is an actual thing. Will Roman come back during this pandemic? Probably not. So by the time we see Roman again, he will have a little cushion, because he'll probably be back when fans are back, and there might be a little bit buzz around it. But I mean, think about it. He's going to be part of that buzz as well, because they're going to want to see what's Roman going to do, right? They have, and again, if you let guys go out there with handcuffs, you're going to get heat. There's going to be big time, naysayers. But if you let them go out there and give them bullet points and be themselves, like, I don't know, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, because we all know the Ringmaster and the Blue Chipper Rocky Maivia really were getting over, right? Because that was the scripted Vince McMahon visions of them. And then look what happened afterwards. Imagine Roman coming out, being able to be edgy. Imagine Brock. I mean, look at the promo Brock cut in UFC. Granted, they're publicly traded. They're not going to want to, have him swear, but he has to have Heyman with him. Kind of dulls down Brock a little bit. But if you let Brock come out and kind of do some shoot stuff, then it's fun. Then it's interesting again. So clearly, these two guys are missed. And for honorable mentions, Charlotte, Becky, right, for the women's division. I can't even say Cena and Taker anymore because they've been so part-time. I mean, Brock's wrestled more than those two guys have. So there you have it, folks. That's why there's mass chaos at TV tapings, and Vince McMahon is insane and doesn't know what to do. Whether he has newfound loves in Matt Riddle, right, the next HBK, or Sexy Boy, we don't know. I don't know if he's going to have that trust in anybody new when he's still missing sorely Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. But thank you for listening to this edition of Virtue's Brand of Wrestling right here on thebigvitobrand.com, and of course over on wrestlingwithwrestling.com and Andre Corbeil's page. We'll have Robbie Weiss back on soon. I think him and I are going to do a show for next week, so stay tuned to that. Again, go over to nodq.com, the opinion section, and check out my Virtues Rage article. I appreciate it. It will be up. I'm not sure when you're seeing this video or listening to this, but that will be up sometime on Sunday. So whether this is Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, go check it out. You can follow me on Twitter at @NoDQ_Virtue. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time.